Hello and welcome back to ERU, where we round up the biggest results and talking points from across European football. It's Mikey McCubbs here with me, Doogie Critchley. Today, McCubbs, how are you? How was your weekend?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad, thanks, Dukes. Yeah, had a nice weekend, thanks. Just went out for my mate's birthday on Saturday, watched the Carabao Cup final yesterday, saw bits of football kind of here and there as well. Yeah, that Kepa miss, I think, you know, they'll be discussing that on winners and losers, I'm sure, but yeah, I got a feel for the guy, but it was hilarious. It just was hilarious, wasn't it? Considering the circumstances. But yeah, how are you, Dukes? How have you been?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Yeah, I went go-karting on Saturday. Turns out, not a good go-karter. I've done it before, but this was particularly bad. I was second last out of 8. So not really my sport, it turns out. And then, yeah, had a few drinks on Saturday, watched the Carabao Cup final yesterday, caught up with some of the European action. And that's where we're going to kick off today, because, McCubbs, there's a manager we've seen in Europe, in Jesse Marsch, is rumoured to be taking over Marcelo Bielsa's job, which has been made vacant with his sacking on Sunday. What's going on with this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is a piece of news that could be official potentially by the time you're watching this, at least if current reports are to be believed. But yeah, Sunday, the kind of worst happened, didn't it? Pretty sad stuff. Yeah, Leeds took the difficult decision to sack Marcelo Bielsa after what was a really poor run of form, 4 consecutive defeats. You know, lost on an aggregate of 17-2. I think they conceded 20 goals in total in February, which is the most any Premier League side has ever conceded in a single calendar month. And yeah, that left Leeds 2 points above 18th placed Burnley. Sean Dyche's men obviously have 2 games in hand as well on them. Newcastle have leapfrogged them, of course. Everton have been plunged into that relegation battle as well, which has been, you know, could turn out to be pretty fascinating actually. But yeah, obviously this was a huge call for Chairman Andrea Radrizzini, who obviously brought him in originally after being appointed in June 2018. Whilst the job that Marcelo Bielsa has done is nothing short of remarkable, is it? He's taken them from kind of mid-table championship mediocrity, finished top in 2020, of course, lost in the playoff final the year before, and yeah, finished 9th last term. So yeah, had really brought Leeds back into, you know, made them a force again, with what was a very limited squad as well. But yeah, this season injuries, of course, have counted against them. Calvin Phillips and Patrick Bamford, 2 of their key men last term, have managed just 1,500 minutes between them. But equally, they just concede far too many goals, and that's always been the case, hasn't it? They've actually conceded the 3rd most goals in Europe, behind Bordeaux and Greuther Fürth, who have both been terrible defensively this term, obviously. But yeah, and they just weren't good enough at a lot of the basics as well. Set pieces, they were particularly bad at conceding from. Conceded 15 already, 15 last term, 13 already this term. And yeah, although names like Ernesto Valverde and Huddersfield boss Carlos Corberán were mentioned, Jesse Marsch is expected to be named as the new boss imminently. Fabrizio Romano claims a verbal agreement has been reached, and they just need to sort out a work permit for the American coach. But Dukes, of course, Jesse Marsch has, you know, this isn't the only big job that he's had this term. What do you think? Do you think this is a good appointment?
It's difficult to say for sure either way, which I think, having made this massive decision to sack Bielsa, you'd probably want a bit more of a guarantee. I mean, Jesse Marsch obviously, you know, built up a reputation at RB Salzburg. He did, and New York Red Bulls before that, it was worth saying as well. He did back-to-back League and Cup doubles in Austria, promising Champions League performances, particularly in 2019-20 against Napoli, Liverpool. Not so good the year after against, I think it was Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich, a really tough group. But his time at RB Leipzig at the start of this season was a bit of a disaster. He only lasted 21 games and lost 9 of them. He was fired on the 5th of December with his side 11th, having lost 3 games in a row, and they were 7 points off 4th spot. Now, there obviously was contributing factors in this. It was his first job in a top 5 European league. He was coming in after Julian Nagelsmann, not an easy guy to come in after, and he'd also had his squad sort of gutted of their sort of top talents, really. Upamecano, Konate, Sabitzer had left. But there were supposed stylistic differences. He was more sort of the old school Red Bull philosophy vertical, quick counter-attacks, you know, less possession base, which Nagelsmann had slowly moved to in the last few years, and some of the players he'd signed in the last few years had sort of moved towards that. And it seemed like Marsch's style and philosophy was a bit of a juxtaposition with their recent recruitment, and it just didn't really work out at all. Stylistically, he is much closer to Bielsa than some of the other names in the hat, but you just feel like if you're trying to change what you've been doing bad at, it's maybe a better idea to go down a slightly different philosophical route, and maybe Ernesto Valverde would have been the smarter pick. He's known to create a very solid defence at Athletic Club. They never conceded more than 1.2 goals per league game across his 4 full seasons there. He reached the Europa League quarter-finals and reached the Copa del Rey final. At Barcelona, obviously there was sort of murmurs of stylistic differences, didn't play the Barcelona way, stuck to 4-4-2 at times, and just seemed like he never really fit in at Barcelona, and the fans never really accepted him. But having said that, he did win 2 league titles, including one with 93 points. It was just really his Champions League results, those horrific humiliations at the hands of Roma and Liverpool, that sort of really counted against him. So it feels like Marsch wouldn't be a terrible appointment by any means, but they say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, and it feels like Leeds have slightly gone down that route with him. I don't know whether I'm being a little bit harsh, McCubs. I mean, are you a bit hotter on Marsch than I am?
Yeah, I don't mind the appointment at all. I think the problem with Leeds is that they haven't done enough in the transfer market over the last 12 months to address those problems. And yeah, a manager who's, you know, had only very limited experience managing a club in a top 5 league, coming into a situation like this, a Premier League relegation battle, with, you know, those injury problems that are persisting throughout the squad. Yeah, he's got a really tough job in his hands, and yeah, it feels like one of those ones where if he doesn't get off to a good start, or at least an alright start, then question marks will very quickly begin to arise over his credentials. So I think it's a very brave job for Jesse Marsch to have taken on, and it's brave appointments as well, for sure. But I think it's the more interesting appointment. So in that sense, I quite like it.
Yeah, Ernesto Valverde also hasn't been, you know, employed since he was sacked in, was it January 2020 as well? Yeah. I think he's been an artist in Spain, so maybe he'd be a little bit out of touch, whereas Jesse Marsch was only in employment, what, 3 months ago? So maybe a safer bet. And it's worth mentioning that it's not just injuries that have cost Leeds this season. I think some of their players haven't managed to replicate their form from last year. Jack Harrison, Luke Ayling, Stuart Dallas, 3 stalwarts of the last campaign, haven't really been at their best this year. But Marcelo Bielsa gone, Jesse Marsch potentially coming in. Guys, what do you make of the situation at Leeds? Let us know in the comments down below. And let's move on to our result of the week.
Our result of the week comes from @Desdon Serie A on Twitter, Dukes. And yeah, Lazio Napoli on Sunday night. What a game this was.
What a finish. What a spectacular game. I mean, there was a little bit of other options to choose from. Well done to Sevilla for beating Real Betis 2-1 in the Seville derby. Barcelona thrashed Athletic Club 4-0 with Aubameyang continuing his magnificent start to life in Catalonia. But we covered them on the result of the week last week. So instead, we want to analyse Napoli's crucial 2-1 win over Lazio, which was sealed by a 94th minute winner by Fabian Ruiz with just 16 seconds left on the clock. Absolutely box office stuff. Napoli had taken the lead in the second half through Lorenzo Insigne's wonderful curling finish from just outside the box. But when Pedro struck a volley in the 88th minute, a wonderful volley as well, coming down off a cleared ball from a corner, it seemed like the Little Donkeys would join Inter Milan and Milan in dropping points this weekend. But in the dying seconds of the game, Elif Elmas, who is a useful player, I think, North Macedonian, drove at the defence, found Insigne, who unselfishly laid it off to Fabian Ruiz, who scored his 6th league goal of the season and sent Napoli top of Serie A on goal difference. And there was amazing scenes afterwards. We've seen some fantastic touchline runs this year. Mourinho's done it, Pioli's done it, and now Spalletti got in on the act, running down to the corner with all the Napoli fans going absolutely mental. It is what football was all about, really. It was probably a little bit fortunate as a victory for Napoli. It was a very even game, really. But Napoli had about 15 shots to Lazio's 13. They got 7 on target to their 8. But Lazio created the much better chances. 1.4 XG to their 0.9. Ospina had to make 7 saves and really came in clutch in a couple of crucial moments. Some fantastic saves from him. But it was an absolutely vital win for Napoli, as Sam Tighe was talking about on Continental Club on Friday, which you should go check out after you finish watching this. It came just 3 days after their crushing 4-2 defeat versus Barcelona, and having already exited the Coppa Italia, having lost 5-2 to Fiorentina already this season. Serie A is now Napoli's only chance of silverware this year. They feel like they've got a pretty good chance, a pretty good chance. I'm not going to go too over the top. They're unbeaten in 8 Serie A games with 5 wins in that time, and no one has picked up more than their 18 points in that time. That's 3 more than Milan and 9 more than Inter, who are really falling apart. Hellas Verona, and Juve are the next best in that period on 15. But as McCubs is going to touch on in due course, they've got some really tough fixtures coming up. But before we get onto that, McCubs, a word on Lazio. This was pretty heartbreaking for them.
Yeah, a shame as well for Sarri, obviously up against his former club. They were looking to bounce back from their own Europa League disappointments. Obviously their 2-2 draw with Porto saw them lose 4-3 on aggregate on Thursday. And yeah, they missed some massive chances. Luis Alberto in the first half, after a wonderful piece of combination play. Felipe Anderson setting him up for that. Koulibaly got a crucial clearance in after he was about to tuck home, and Ospina made a flying save from Pedro as well. Sergio Milinkovic-Savic as well should have had a goal. Another good save from Ospina at close range. So yeah, they won most of the crucial battles, I think. And it's interesting that Fabian Ruiz got the winner, because he didn't really have his best game. He was really overran by Milinkovic-Savic for most of the match. But I think Napoli just, they did just have those moments of star quality in the right kind of pockets of the game. Obviously, Insigne also had another goal ruled out for offside in the end, not too long after his first. So yeah, I think it was really crucial for Napoli in terms of a game that they perhaps shouldn't have won, but they did after the disappointment of Barcelona, after drawing with Cagliari last week. I think psychologically this is a massive win for them. But yeah, as for Lazio, they've now lost to Milan, Juve, Napoli twice, and Sassuolo and Inter. So they've not been great in the big games this season, at least results-wise. They've only beaten 2 of the top 8 sides. That was Roma and Inter. Inter have actually only scored more than their 54 goals, so that hasn't really been a problem for them. But their defence has been. 8 sides have conceded fewer than their 42, which is level with teams like Bologna, Udinese and Sampdoria. Although I think in this game, we probably don't need to be too harsh on them in that sense, because both of the Napoli goals were just world class, weren't they?
Yeah, stunning.
Best player on the night, Milinkovic-Savic, we've already mentioned. 5 tackles and interceptions, 3 aerial duels, 3 dribbles, 1 key pass and 2 shots. For Napoli, Diego Dem deserves a shout out, I think. 7 tackles and interceptions, 1 dribble, 96% pass accuracy, just his 6th league start this season, so a really good game for him. But yeah, man of the match, I think, has to be Insigne. 2 tackles, 3 dribbles, 3 shots. Obviously got the assist for Fabian Ruiz's goal as well, and got his own magnificent goal, which was his first from open play this season, which I found absolutely mad. But yeah, so he's finally off the mark in that sense. But yeah, like you said, dudes, 11 matches remaining, and Napoli still have to play Milan, which is on next Sunday, or this Sunday coming, sorry, Atalanta, Fiorentina, Roma and Sassuolo. So it's not the easiest run-in for them. But yeah, Milan on Sunday is going to be a mad game. Very quickly, Dukes, any early predictions for that one?
Every time you think that Milan have slightly lost a little bit of momentum, they sort of turn it on in a big game. I think most people were predicting them to lose to Inter Milan a couple of weeks ago, and then they, beat them 2-1 with that Giroud double. I'm going to go with a high-scoring draw, I think, in that one, which won't really suit either team, because Inter have that game in hand as well. But their form's been really troubling recently. Just don't seem to be creating enough chances from open play.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to go for a Napoli win, I think. I'm going to go for a Napoli win. The romantic in me, just believes. But yeah, what do you guys think about the Serie A title race? What do you think about this win for Napoli? Do you think it was as important as we're kind of saying it is? And yeah, what do you think about next weekend, Napoli or Milan? Who's going to come out on top? Let us know in the comments below, and let's move on to our star of the week.
So it's time for Star of the Week, everyone's favourite section. Well, at least mine. It's Yeremi Pino at the suggestion of Jake C_96. McCurbs.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't have really given it to anyone else, could we? Kylian Mbappe, 2 goals against San Etienne. Vlahovic scored a brace against Empoli. Obviously carrying on kind of Juve's rise into the Champions League places, consolidating themselves there. But yeah, we can't ignore Yeremi Pino. 19 years old, 4 goals in 52 minutes against Espanyol. Just a superb display from him. 2 tackles and interceptions, 2 aerial duels, 1 dribble, 2 key passes, 5 shots, and from those 5 shots, he scored 4. A perfect hat trick as well in the first half. Header, right foot, left foot. Although the second 2 goals weren't particularly, weren't the hardest to score, but it takes the youngster to 6 goals and 4 assists in 25 league games this season. Just 17 of those have been starts. So he's averaging a goal or an assist every 137 minutes, which is very impressive, especially considering that Villarreal weren't really at the races in the early stages of this season, and he was impressing even then. And capped it off with a lovely 4th goal rounding the keeper. So yeah, great day at the office for him. A great day for Villarreal, who continue their fantastic form of late. But yeah, Dukes, what do you make of Unai Emery's team at the moment?
Well, they're in, as you say, in a pretty good moment. They beat Granada 4-1 last weekend. It was Danjuma that bagged a hat-trick on that occasion. I think 2 of them were penalties, so we nearly made him our Star of the Week last week. And then they put in that excellent display against Juve at home on, was it Tuesday night, in that 1-1 draw. I think pretty much dominated that game for large periods, particularly after, Juve scored after, 35 seconds through Vlahovic. You thought it could be a difficult night for them, but Villarreal more than held their own. And they've now just lost 1 of the last 11 league games with 9 wins. They've scored at least 3 goals in 6 of those games. They've hit 5 on 3 occasions. Only Real Betis with 48 and Real Madrid with 52 have scored more than their 47 league goals this season. So it doesn't feel really like an Unai Emery side. Danjuma, Gerard Moreno, Boula Diaye and Yeremi Pino have all contributed at least 10 league goals. They're on track to score 68, which is their best since 2004-05. So it feels like after that Europa League win last season, Unai Emery's doing a really sort of underrated job at Villarreal and proving himself to be once again an excellent manager, particularly in Spain, speaking his native language, of course. I think that was the main issue at Arsenal, of course. And yeah, best of luck to Villarreal in that game against Juve. I think with their no away goals, they're probably, given their respective forms, maybe the slight favourites in that, because Juve, as good as Vlahovic has looked since joining, probably do still look a little bit weak defensively, conceding 2 goals at home. Was it at home? Either way, to Empoli, probably not quite what they'd expect from that game. So yeah, I think Villarreal have an excellent chance to progress into the Champions League quarterfinals, which would be their first since, I think, the days of Juan Roman Riquelme. So a long, long time. But yeah, that's all we've got time for on ERU for this week, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed our roundup of European action, our discussion about Jesse Marsch and whether he's the right appointment for Leeds United. Hopefully that announcement, has gone live right now, so we are on the money as ever. McCubbs, what would you recommend they go and watch if they've enjoyed this show?
Yeah, go and check out last week's Continental Club. We had Sam Tai on from the Ranks FC podcast. He was a great guest. Really, yeah, great fountain of knowledge of all things European football. So yeah, go and check that out. Go and check out our explainer from this weekend, which is about Ten Hag and why he's the most in-demand manager in European football. Yeah, that's all from me.
Perfect. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next week. Bye.